Everybody, it's Start With Large Lads, and there's a Ask Me Anything circling around that Larian did about the new Divinity game. We're going to break it down, go through all of the questions that we find really interesting, and we're going to jump right into the video. So right before we get started, if you like the channel, if you like the content, please like, comment, and subscribe. Most people watching are not subscribed, so doing a quick tap of the subscribe button is a lot of help for us. Here on the channel, we're huge fans of strategy games, management games, and especially RPGs. We're huge fans of Baldur's Gate and Divinity 2, Original Sin 2 that is. And I can't wait to break this down. We're going to go through all the interesting questions, or all the questions that I found interesting, and more so the answers that I found interesting. Also, today is Sunday, so I have my Eagles jersey on, so if this comes out on Monday and the Eagles lost, please don't say anything in the comments. Thank you. So the important things that we're going to jump into, and I'm going to overlay it on the screen so you're not going to have to stare at me the whole time, even though I do have a little beard coming in. So the first thing that we should break down is the people asking the questions. So we have Swen, the game director, Adam, the writing director, Kevin, the senior writer, Greg, the head of animation, Gabriel, machine learning director, Michael, director of publishing, Nick, head of design, Elena, character art director, Gerald, concept art director, Artem, the head of the gameplay, and Bert, the technical director. So with all the boring stuff out of the way, we're going to jump right into the questions and their interesting answers, and then kind of how I feel about the answer and what I think that they may be alluding to, because some of these answers are pretty cryptic. First question, is there anything specific you were not able or allowed by Wizards as IP holder to do in Baldur's Gate 3 that you want to do in Divinity? And the answer here is from Swen, the game director. He said, we had all the freedom we needed on Baldur's Gate 3, but the game was based in 5e, which is a system that was made for tabletop, not for video games. Most of the limitations came from that. So as most of you guys know, Baldur's Gate 3 is based in 5e, which is the 5th edition for Dungeons & Dragons. There were a lot of creative workarounds that Baldur's Gate actually did to kind of remove some of the harder limitations. Obviously, Divinity is not in 5e, so this shouldn't be a very hard workaround for them. I know that they're going to be changing around their system a little bit, so the game will not play exactly like it did in Divinity. So I know that the whole magic armor system is going to be removed, and they're just going to do maybe more of like a flat defense, and probably implement some of the good parts of 5e and take out some of the bad parts of 5e to remove these limitations. I think this is really good. I also think that this is pretty straightforward. I think maybe it would have been nicer to hear, you know, some of the actual design choices, not 5th edition, that actually limited them. But it's totally fine. I mean, Baldur's Gate 3 is so good. If there were any limiting factors, obviously we didn't really notice them, and it probably makes sense that they were all related to 5th edition, as it is kind of a hard-coded rule set. So it is good to have some limitations, but also in the same note, it can stop you from doing things creatively that you want the player to be able to do. So Divinity 3 shouldn't have that problem, and that's really good news to hear. The next question is, Swen, you said your next game would be smaller than Baldur's Gate 3. Did you guys change your mind, or are you also working on a smaller project? And Swen replied, that was back when we were thinking of another D&D game, but that ship has sailed. So here it's pretty self-explanatory. So they came out and they said after Baldur's Gate 3 they were going to scale down and make a much smaller game. Obviously they've stated that Divinity 3 will be their biggest game to date, so there's a bit of a disconnect there, and this is probably good to clear it up. What's going on here is just that they were planning on making another game in the Dungeons & Dragons IP for Wizards of the Coast, but because they're getting to do their own game, they're going to do a bigger version of Divinity. So there's not really quite the disconnect. They just didn't know at the time that they were going to be doing that. So kind of the overall synopsis of this is that yes, they said that. No, it is not the case anymore. Divinity 3 is actually going to be their biggest game to date, so they say. What are the main lessons you've taken from developing and launching Baldur's Gate 3 that you'll apply to Divinity? Artem here with the reply, there are a lot of lessons, and a single post is not enough to cover them all, so here are a few. Short and direct communication is a must for quick decision-making and iteration. Avoid middlemen in any processes and try to bring people working together on the feature as close as possible to each other. Automated testing and unit tests is the lifeline to keep such a big project alive and going. So why I thought this was interesting is there's lots of studios today that kind of just have like this huge bloat and any issue just moving communication around the studio. Think Bethesda. That's really like the worst when I think of how a like studio operates, is that they have 5 times the amount of people that they had when they made Oblivion, and it still takes them just as long to make a game as it took them to make Oblivion, right? Game dev has gotten a little harder, but not that much harder. So these things are kind of important. Obviously, we saw with CD Projekt Red that they completely overhauled their whole style on how they develop a game, because they had so many issues when they made Cyberpunk. And then we see with the Cyberpunk DLC that once they've recompartmentalized, that they're able to push things out efficiently and make them really good. So I think that this is a good, this is really good to see, that the studio can run efficiently. They're bringing people to the processes so there's not as much disconnect. And if communication is good, all these systems can talk well. And then hopefully they can make things more efficiently and get us the game quicker and better. So that's just why I thought this was important to drop in here. I really appreciate seeing things like this on how an internal studio runs. I think that this is a good sign. Now, this one was one of my favorite questions. What are some of the mods you have seen for Baldur's Gate 3 that made you say, we should have thought of that, or we'll definitely have to include that next time around? Nick replied, we're taking notes on all of the UI mods for sure. The UI team worked very hard to bring the complexity of an open world D&D adventure to a video game format, but we had more improvements in mind that we just couldn't cram into our release. Happy we managed to make the UI moddable in the first place. And then Elena also replied, love all the mods regarding player appearance. Lots of creative ideas in terms of combining outfits, hairstyles, and whatnot. Our team is always looking at those, and we take note of what our community wants. So this one's actually a two-parter. The first part is the UI, is that there's lots of UI mods. I think generally speaking, I know it's really hard to encapsulate UI in the best way. I think studios generally try to go the simple and clean approach, which is good. And then they also want to give you as much information as possible, which is also good. Typically, though, what you'll see is modders will try to make it a little prettier to look at, maybe get rid of some of the tool tipping, because at the point that you start modding games, a lot of times you already know everything that there is to do in the game. So these are kind of like design limitations that make it easier for new time players, that players who have played and have more experience will generally end up modding out eventually. Also maybe just placement of things and things that the studio thought that the players might not want to see that the players do want to see, and vice versa. So the UI is pretty expected. That's one of the harder things in a game to get right. The other part that I actually really like is the part that Elena replies to. Now, one of my favorite things to do in RPGs is to create my character, and there's a lot of kind of creative options that are already in Baldur's Gate. You can customize so much and make your character look so good, so the idea that they're trying to add even more to that is huge, and I really appreciate that. I think it really helps the actual role-playing experience of a creative character, and that's just huge to me. That's one of my favorite things to do. I mean, when I dropped my first episode of my Skyrim video, I actually didn't even include the part where I created my character because it took so long. So one of the things that I can do is just sit here on the screen and just create my character for an hour and a half. So that they're going to add more to that, 2 thumbs up in my book. Will the looting system be random and level dependent, like most items in Divinity Original Sin 1 and 2? Or will there be more handcrafted items like in Baldur's Gate 3? Nick from Larian said, the Baldur's Gate 3 approach of handcrafting magic items worked well, and it's something we've always wanted to do for Divinity Original Sin 2. Something we realized when working on randomized loot for Divinity Original Sin 1 and 2 is that fully random loot is frequently confusing. So we added more rules and pre-made patterns to make it feel more intentional, and in the end, randomization did not save us much time. So this is good. I don't really care for the random loot that is in Divinity Original Sin 2. I never played Divinity Original Sin 1, so I wouldn't really know. But I'm assuming if it's the same system, then I get it. The handcrafted magic items in Baldur's Gate is awesome to me. Not to jump back to Bethesda, but something they've started doing in their new titles is giving you these randomly generated kind of artifacts. You see it in Fallout 4, and you see it in Fallout 76, and you see it in Starfield, and I really hate it. Like, I like in Skyrim how there's like, here is the Blade of Woe, and this is a special item. And I like that they keep that kind of same vibe of here are the special items and we're handcrafting them for you, and they're not randomized, and the loot itself isn't randomized either. You find it here at this place, this is where you get it from. I like that. I think that makes a lot of sense. And then the other thing is, like he said, is that the randomization options are confusing, and they generally don't actually save you any time because then you have to tweak it so much because it's so confusing. So the fact that they're getting rid of that in Divinity Original Sin 3 or Divinity 3 isn't going to have those, I think is a really good. I think it's a really good sign for the game. In Baldur's Gate 3, I really enjoyed the aspect of ending the day and going into the camp to interact with your companions, not so much for refilling spell slots. Will there be something similar in Divinity? Adam replied, "We'll give you the space to build your relationships with the companions. I won't go into much detail here, and yes, you won't have to refill any spell slots." So pretty straightforward. They might not be giving us the camp system. It's, I guess, fun that we don't have to refill the spell slots. I don't think it's actually that big of a deal. I think it kind of helps add balance to the game, and you kind of have to plan your encounters a little bit better when you do have to refill the spell slots. Obviously, this isn't 5e, so you won't be having to do that. What he means here when he says, I won't go into too much detail, but I will give you space. So there could be different, there's a lot of different things, actually. You could have a camp, you could have a central location, you could be kind of leaving from different areas, and the camp kind of could be moving to different, okay, we're doing it at an inn or a tavern, or, so it could just be a coat of paint on the camp system, or it could be something completely different that I couldn't even speculate on what it would be. But I think this is cool. I think it could add lots of roleplay options. I actually think it would be cool if you kind of went tavern to tavern to tavern, and then the taverns kind of replaced your camp. I think that would be really cool. Granted, I don't really know how that would work out in the wild. Maybe it would just be a camp again, but I guess we'll have to see. Tonally speaking, how different will Divinity be from Divinity Original Sin 2? Adam said, "It's more grounded, and you might have picked up some of the folk horror vibes in our trailer. But with games the size of Divinity Original Sin 2 and Divinity, there is lots of tonal variations as you move through the world and meet new characters. I hope it'll make you laugh, frighten you, shock you, and delight you." This is really cool to me. I like the folk horror vibe. I like something more akin to The Witcher. I like the kind of the heavy atmosphere, and then that kind of Eastern European kind of flair. I know there's lots of Polish watchers of the channel here, so I think things more akin to The Witcher, and then also kind of how we've talked about it a few times with the Blood of Dawnwalker, how it's kind of has that Eastern European Transylvanian kind of vibe to it. I think that really adds like just such an atmosphere around something, and it's not what you see every day, and it's not the typical fantasy environment. So to me, this is like huge. I love this. Will there be co-op planned for release? If so, how many players? Bert says, "Yes, co-op will be available for release. The amount of players playing together will be depending on the final party size. But since modding is planned for this project as well, players will essentially be free to extend this. There's no hard limitation on the amount of co-op players." Now, what I think, and why I chose to include this one, we all kind of, I think, thought that co-op would be here. It is nice that they're going to make it moddable and extendable. I think the big thing here is that he says depending on the final party size. I think most people assume that it'll be 4, but the fact that it's not already kind of assumed internally that it'll be 4 kind of could lead you to believe that maybe it won't be 4. Maybe it'll be a party size of 4, not including your co-op companions. So maybe you can have 3 additional people come in with you, and then there'll be up to 3 AI with you. Now, it seems like a lot of players, but who knows? It could really go either way. One of the issues that I found with Baldur's Gate 3 is when I had a lot of friends play, it kind of took away from the game, because those interactions that you have with members of the camp and the AI are actually really good. So if you have, you and 3 of your buddies, you miss out on all of those interactions. So I think it would be good if we could add some more AI characters to a full party. So this is why I chose to include this. What are the playable races and classes? Greg said, "We aren't ready to talk about that quite yet, but if you rewatch the trailer, you should get some hints on the races." And then I actually included my favorite comment here, which is, "Can't wait to play as a hog eating my slop." Now, I just thought that was kind of funny to include, but I think the big thing is the orcs. You kind of see the orcish kind of, I'm losing the name of what specifically he's called, but he's kind of like toasting his beer and he throws up, and then the hog actually eats it. That's why the comment was funny to me. But the actual orc itself, we don't have those playable in Divinity. I'm assuming that what he's saying is that it'll probably be all of the races that we're expecting, plus them. That would be my final prediction, but who knows, we'll have to see. And lastly, this one's kind of a fan service to the channel. Are there any recent games circa 2025 that stood out to your team as inspiring or reinvigorated your passion for game making? And Bert said, "I like deep systems, so I've been playing Europa Universalis 5 a lot, but I keep being amazed by the creativity of the indie scene as a whole. There are so many good games done by small teams. I'm really looking forward to start playing The Seance of Blake Manor, for example." I just thought it was fun to add. Obviously, we do a lot of Europa content on this channel. I think it's funny that some of the people who do like this hardcore RPG, I kind of always think that I'm one of like the few people who kind of splits all their time between RPGs and then like strategy management games, but obviously I'm not. So I just thought that would be fun to add to the video. But that concludes all of the questions and answers that I find super interesting. Obviously, there's a lot of buzz with AI. It's just what I've seen and heard now is that it's eternal concept art, and they're kind of using their own art to train their models. Whether or not that's true, I guess we'll have to wait around and see. But that kind of concludes the video. If you guys like the video, please like, comment, and subscribe. And I hope everybody's as excited for Divinity as I am. Please subscribe. All right. Thanks, guys.